All right, welcome in everybody. Alex and Phil today. Little squad building Mondays late, but we are on time and love to talk always to Phil. Phil is a lifelong Leeds United fan, and I was just talking to him about how he became because he's watching the Welsh game currently, and of course our all Welsh, aren't we? Team, our side, Ampadu, Coach Joe Rodon, Dan James, Charlie Crew, and Carl Darlow. We used to be, we used to have some Americans, but they didn't work out. And Welsh football players are quite, they're good. And this man loves him some footy. And I was just like, where did you get the bug? And he just said it's in the culture in the UK to just come out and you play it. Obviously, as a kid, everybody almost plays it. All the boys and the lads play it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right from basically right from as soon as you can walk, you sort of give it a football and learn to kick it around the backyard, and it just starts from there. But it just starts from there.
Yeah. Yeah. My son is playing some youth soccer, and he likes it. He likes playing the game. He doesn't like practicing. He doesn't see the important. He's 4 years old, but he's like, what is this drill I'm doing? He's like, I just want to go play and take the ball off somebody, So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, but he does like to, and he scored a few times, but yeah, he's like, I don't really like practice, but I do like the game. He's got a buddy of his that, like, he's 5. This kid is 5, and I was talking to his mom, and he's like, he gets up at 6 a.m. on the game day, on the match day. It's like,
yeah,
and that kid, and that's where it's like, I think about this sometimes just with athletes in general, like a Tiger Woods or Roy McIlroy, or like elite players like that. It's like where talent and desire are met, and then also with obviously really good coaching. But you see pictures of these kids when they're 5 and 6, and they're phenomenal. You can tell that they're going to be phenomenal athletes. And yeah, it's just like, you put that kid that's waking up at 6 a.m. already for his match day at 5, and then he's got talent. I mean, the kid's pretty talented, but we'll see. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I don't
yes.
know. I just think that stuff's interesting.
I completely agree with you, Alex. I think the top notch players in the world actually love the game as well as are technically brilliant at it. So
Hmm.
they're dedicated, but they love the game so much it takes them right to the very top. Yeah.
Jason says, evening, Jason.
Jason, how we
Go,
doing?
go ahead and smash the like as you come in. Small channel, so it means a lot, and it kicks the algorithm on to other Leeds United fans. All right, let's talk about some real Leeds United. I think news that we can talk about right now. I mean, the rumor mill is so hypothetical right now. I just don't know how much we can really talk about. There is starting to be, I think you're starting to see where Leeds United are going to shop. They're going to shop in that kind of 20 to 40 million pound bracket, which I think is exciting. Agents are leaking some of the stories of what bids are being put in. But again, we are far from tracking flights and getting, people's with cameras in the car park of Elland Road and those types of things, where we're actually going to see a Leeds United player in a kit. So we've got a ways to go before that progresses. And I don't think much will get done, as many have said, until the PSR deadline of June 30th. The reason that being, you have to kind of just cook the books. That's the game that's being played. And I'll get into a little bit more of that, but you see how Chelsea are kind of skirting PSR, but it's all kind of fuzzy math and cooking books and what's going on here with this PSR deadline and the opening of the window and then closing of the window for the Club World Cup. But Phil, I'm just going to go ahead and get stuck in on some of the PSR stuff that happened over the weekend in the Athletic article. But the Athletic basically released a story about what each team was permitted to spend according to PSR. And they basically said that Leeds United is permitted to incur losses of $61 million for the upcoming season under PSR, a lower threshold due to their time in the championship. The constraint, combined with substantial promotion bonuses estimated at nearly £20 million and potential survival bonuses, put the club under some financial strain. To mitigate this pressure, Leeds will probably have to sell some players. Phil, just what's your take on PSR, the PSR guidelines, and Leeds United's kind of financial footing as that story kind of came out earlier this week?
If you've got about 5 hours, I'll go through every little bit of it for you. To keep it brief, I don't like it, Alex. I don't like the way that it's set up at this moment in time. I think it's unfair. It's unfair across the board. If you look at the bid that Liverpool are making of 120 million plus, that is our complete and utter budget basically for the next season. So how can it be a fair sort of competition? I understand the deeper meanings of it, that the likes of the big boys can't just basically buy trophies. I understand that. But on the other hand, it's also widening the gap. We've all seen the 3 teams going up, the 3 teams going back down again. That there must be a different way of doing these things to make it a little bit more even. But again, I will try and make it as brief as I can. It stems right from the top, Alex. The fans did shouted down the European Super League.
Yep.
But the European Super League has just morphed into the World Club Championship, and the winning team gets 100 million quid. We can't get 100 million quid because we're not even in the competition. So how?
Right.
Where's the fairness? On the back of that, I'm going to say I trust the 49ers. I think the 49ers will do everything that they possibly can to keep us in the championship. They didn't buy us to be a yo-yo club. They didn't buy us to look at enhancing the stadium to a 55,000-seater stadium to go up a season and come back down a season.
Yeah.
So my take on that is I don't like it. I don't think it's fair on a number of on a lot of different levels, but we are where we are with it, and I'm going to trust the 49ers to do the best that they potentially can with what they've got to deal with.
Yeah, the good news is that so basically look, I do trust the 49ers. What's happening is it's manipulation of money. And it's really what teams have the best accountants. That's what it's really come down to. But basically this PSR, profit and sustainability rules, limit clubs to losses of 105 million over 3 years. So how you manipulate that money, I think, is going to be what allows you to kind of bend those rules. And that's why Leeds opened up those shares maybe 2 weeks ago to additional investors, is to inject some capital into the club. So if they needed to probably spend, they could. I think this is where I guess I trust the 49ers more than Rad Rosani. This is where you're kind of thinking that you have the 49ers rather than Rads and what was going on over there beforehand, because there's actual ability to invest in the club and invest on players. The financial outlook's fairly strong. If there is going to be a team that challenges this 3 up, 3 down narrative, this closed shop narrative, we all have to say, and even others, not Leeds United fans, have said it's probably going to be Leeds United, which kind of brings me to my second topic. Rising clubs and falling clubs in the Premier League happen all of the time, and recently, of course, Tottenham has fired Ange Postecoglou. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but Ange, as he's known, to the Spurs. Some people have called him the Australian Bielsa, his style of play. But he has gotten canned. There is now going to be a ripple effect. I've not seen if it's a here we go, but Thomas Frank from Brentford is rumored to be the leading candidate. Look, if Leeds stay up, that means somebody has to go down, and Brentford might be weakening currently. What's your take on some of the ripple effect that could happen out of the Ange Postecoglou sacking? Phil.
I saw your tweet the other day, and it did make me smile and made me think. I think Postecoglou is a very good manager.
Yeah.
I really do. I also think he's a very good human being, which
I do
is
too.
which is a very good thing from a Leeds United point of view, and I agree. My concern is, and I know I'll probably get a lot of stick for this because there's so many people saying
I'm not
that.
saying he should be manager of Leeds United.
No, and I understand what you're
No,
saying.
no.
But
Yeah.
what I'm saying to you is that a lot of people have said that Daniel Farke really isn't a Premier League manager, and I just think, do you know what? He could actually turn out to be a very, very good Premier League
Yeah.
manager. He just needs the chance. Are we throwing away something for something that could be just as good? I don't know. At this moment in time, I completely understand what you're saying. I think, but I don't think that Postecoglou will struggle in getting another job.
No.
At all, Alex. Yeah. And I'm also going to say, at this moment in time, we are very much in the transfer market window. Does Postecoglou coming in then change the dynamics of the recruitment? Because again, we're a little bit too late within that. In my mind, within those steps, if the 49ers have done what I expect them to have done, which is also a lot of work for the last couple of months on players, ins and outs, are they then thinking about ripping that book up just to bring the likes of Postecoglou in? That'd be my concern.
Yeah. What's your take? I mean, I don't know if he'll become Leeds United manager. Let's say Daniel Farke falters a little bit, and maybe I don't know. The advantage is that he knows the league. I think, like, just as a fan of football, what do you think happened there? I mean, don't you think that he basically said, I'm not going to worry about the league. I'm going to concentrate on this trophy. He adapted his side. So the whole narrative that he doesn't adapt, I don't necessarily buy into. I just think, I think it was harsh a little bit. I mean, but as the other side to me is like you win the European trophy, you win the Europa League, and then you get absolutely hammered by, 4-1 to Brighton the following week in the league to finish your season and nail yourself on to 17th.
Yep.
It's not a good look. And I don't.
It's a balancing act, though, Alex, because they've had quite a lot of injuries at Spurs this season. I think that Postecoglou has got to a certain point and thought, do you know what? Our only chance of getting European football next season is by going all the way in the European games. So potentially organise this team and this squad in that sense. To which case you've got to say, well, congratulations, because you've done a very, very good job on securing European football next year, which means that you can secure better players coming in. I completely understand that 17th is not the greatest of positions to be in, but if you're going to say to me next season, what would you stick to 17th in a trophy? I would absolutely snap your hand off.
Yeah.
I am not saying that that's correct for Leeds at this moment in time. Sorry, for Spurs at this moment in time. You'd expect them to be a little bit higher up there, but I do think with the injuries and everything that they've had, he's not done a bad job.
Yeah. I love them. I like him as a person, and
Yeah, I
I think,
agree.
and I don't again, I don't think he'll be gone too long. I think we probably are moving forward with Daniel Farka by now. Obviously, uh, the board has come out and backed Daniel Farka. Parag came out over the summer, early spring, and said he's my man after the trophy win. Let's move a little bit to the squad and squad building that is happening. Max Wöber came out and said, quote, Leeds have made it clear to me that they want to sell me. I was pleased that I was able to show other clubs during my Austrian duty, and he's playing internationally, which I think this is so funny. This came out after the club actually tweeted, "Congratulations, Max Wöber, for your 2-1 victory in in an international game." And then he comes out basically after the game and says that he's proving that he's fit and that he doesn't want to rot away in England. I'm taken back by that comment a little bit. Because you have an opportunity to fight for your spot every week. I just you didn't get into the championship side. You were injured. You didn't prove yourself in practice. That doesn't mean you can rot. You're rotting away in England. So, what is your take on Max Wöber's comments? And what would you do with them? Would you sell them?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would. And I think the same way that you do. If he's as good as what he thinks he is, then why isn't he? Why isn't he thinking? Do you know what? I can make the first team at Leeds United, and I can play in the Premier League. It's for me. It's just somebody come and get me because I don't want to be here situation, Alex. And again, whether it's his agent putting it that way, I don't know. But we've had enough. We've had enough
People that don't want
drama,
a drama.
drama with Max Wöber. So do you know what? Listen, thanks for being here, but
We move.
off you go. Yes,
Off you pop.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought he was one of the better players in that fight.
Agree.
In that relegation fight after Jesse left and all that happened. He was one of the players that I wanted to keep. He has obviously the loan clause, leaves, has a good season, comes back, and then he's injured. I thought there was something going on with his knee. He had a poor game in a cup, I believe, and he was completely out of position. And then we really didn't see him except for a few substitutions. But yeah, I mean, if you don't want to be here, we'll more than happy to move on. There's a lot of players that will die to be in the Premiership, in the English Premier League. So
absolutely, completely agree.
Off you move. But it's a shame because I really think that there's a decent player in there, and I like the fact that he's flexible.
I agree.
He's a versatile defender. So, anyways, off he goes, and we'll see how much we get for him.
And Alex, he plays on the left-hand side of the centre halves again, which is so. Yeah,
it's just a weird comment to make too. He's saying You're right, Phil. He's saying somebody come get me, which is I think it's pathetic. I think it's pathetic to say that. You could say that to your manager. I want to get out of here. Do the best you can, make it out, release an article or something. There's ways they do that, but to come out after a game, I think is in poor taste.
Yeah.
The other rumor that's been happening is Fabrizio Romano, who just tweeted out about 12 hours ago on Junior Firpo. Where was that? Real Betis is looking to sign a new left back, and they have approached Junior Firpo for a potential return. He's been rumored to go to Betis pretty much all spring.
Yeah.
He is out of contract. I think it's not just a money question with him. I think he's getting to the age where I don't think he wants to leave England. I think he's got a family. His wife's here. I think he probably does want to play Premier League football, but so I just think there's other factors that play with Junior, and it's not all about the money, but of course he will return to Spain if that's what it comes down to. What's your take on Firpo, and what do you think is going to happen with him? Do you think he's going to come back to Leeds United?
No, I really don't, Alex. My take on that is I think he's been fantastic in the Championship, absolutely fantastic. I just don't think he's a Premier League left back. He's very good at going forward, and we will miss his assists because his assists were up there with the best of them last season. I've seen him in the Premiership, we all have. His positional play isn't great in the Premier League, and I would fear for him if we start with him at left back, and I don't think he wants to be a number 2.
There's something about two attacking fullbacks. Like, I think you can get away with it in the Championship, and I mean, if you have the quality enough, you could get away with it in the Premiership. But I just don't think that you have two fullbacks, like, because Jaden Anthony, Bogle, thank you, is gonna go and overlap as well. So I think it'll just, and Junior's not disciplined defensively. Like, he'll creep forward too, even if Farka says, I need you to hang back or whatever the instructions will be. He's gonna find a way to just take those extra couple of yards and get greedy, and that switch ball just happened quick, and will be
absolutely. Yeah. I think, Alex, that's the trouble in the Premier League. I think we'll be much more under a bigger press, which means that he's got to be positionally right all the time and forget too much about his attacking qualities. That will come within, depending on how style of play we've got, all those kind of things. First and foremost, it's going to be about defending, and then defending first, and the attacking side of it then comes second. Again, Alex, and I love Bielsa. I don't want us to be a 5-4. Let's you score, we score, you score, we score kind of team next season. We've got to get to a point where we've got a bedrock to move forward, to progress, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is by having solid foundations, by players being good at their normal job, and then taking it from there.
Good comment by Mr. Whitesnake. He says the three things to play for Leeds: ability, character, and price. Wöber had bad character and cost too much for the ability. And Jason says that character is the main thing. You need a strong enough to wear the shirt. I absolutely agree with that. Yes. It's going to be character to stay up, because it's going to be a big adjustment to go from expecting to win every game to you're going to be in a scrap, right? It's going to be in a scrap week 1, and a draw might be something where it feels like a win. And a win, I don't know, feels like a trophy.
You're exactly right there, Alex. We have got to get to a point where at the bottom of the league, single points are absolutely crucial. So being able to play for draws, being able to hang on in games, all those characteristics are going to come out next season. We are not going to be overrunning teams like we did last year. We're not going to be scoring early goals and then sort of sawing it through games. We're going to have to be switched on from minute 1 to minute 95. And we've got to be doing our main job very, very well. That's my thoughts on that kind of thing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Farka adapts. We've talked about this before. Like, I don't think he is a play out of the back possession based manager. I think he does have adaptations within his system, within his he's stubborn with his 4-2-3-1. I think you'll see, like, he loves that 4-2-3-1 like setup. He just loves it. I mean, we talked last year. I think he did a couple of wing back formations and stuff like that. But as far as without the ball and with the ball, I do think he's flexible to give up ball, to possibly turn it over in an advantageous position. And I tell you what, I credit Darlow a lot for the last, what was it? I don't know, less than 5 games he had to really, he put his foot through the ball a few
Yeah,
times where
yeah,
I think
yeah,
Meslier probably would have tried to set up like a little triangle or play out of the back a little bit.
yeah.
And Darlow just put his foot through it and said, no, we're going to send this up and get the second ball. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I'm also going to comment on that, Alex. I think that's
Yeah.
also important because I think by Meslier always playing it out or very reluctantly knocking it long, that means that the opposition team know that they can press and squeeze you and squeeze you. If you've got the potential to knock a long ball over the top, well, then the opposing team just steps back a few yards. It gives you a little bit of breathing space, and obviously Darlow, it worked for him. So yeah, I agree. I agree.
The other thing that came out, or the ripple effects of Ange leaving Tottenham, is the fact that Solomon will be now reevaluated by the new manager, and
Yeah,
I think the likelihood of him coming back to Leeds United is smaller. It's not zero, but it's probably now from a 50-50 proposition to probably less than 25%. But Mr. Whiteside says, if the Solomon story is true about him wanting to stay at Spurs, then thank you, but we move on. And I think that's probably true. There was risk in Solomon, even though he knew the system. He himself had a history of being in the training room a little bit too much. But yeah, any thoughts on Solomon?
yes, and I'm going to say again, Alex,
Yeah.
this is football and football business. I don't know where the story came from. I don't know if it's definitely Solomon
Sure.
saying to Spurs, I want to be here. If you were employed by anybody and you were thinking about moving, you would not go in and say, oh, by the way, I'm not bothered about playing for you anymore. I want to go join Leeds, because basically you value jobs. You know you're going to be out of the club and all that kind of thing anyway. He's been out on a year's loan. For me, it's him and his agent saying, if you want to keep us, we're okay with playing for Spurs. If you don't, I think he would jump at Leeds in no time. I think a lot of people have read a little bit too much into it, and I think it's just him doing what any player would potentially do. And I'm going to use this as I have done over the weekend. Archie Gray said, "I want to play with Harry at Leeds United, and that's my goal." And within 2 months, it
Yeah.
was down. It was down at Spurs. There's a lot
Yeah.
of things within words that you make the right noises, and it does your career. Okay, let's put it that way.
Oh, it's hard to turn down that kind of life-changing money.
Yes.
And it's hard to get, if you could say to Archie, hey, I'm the ghost of Christmas future, and guess what? Leeds United are going to go up next year.
Yeah.
Would you stay? And he goes, ooh, I would. Maybe he would have
Yes.
stayed if he, but
Yes.
that's an unknown thing. He's like, I could be in the wilderness with Leeds next year and tear my ACL, and then I've got a season. So you've got to take the deal that's in front of you.
Yes.
And so that was the huge consequences of, for whatever reason, not getting up next year or last year. I'm sorry, but we're up now. We're up now,
Yeah.
and that's what's important. And the goalkeeper question will be huge as we do
Yes.
move on. I would imagine we have to move on from Meslier and create competition for Darlow. And I'm sorry if I'm saying this name incorrectly, but Joe Donahue, again, when it starts to get to this, like you see it in the mail and you're kind of like, maybe that could be, it's very unlikely actually. That's where it gets to that like kind of level. No offense to the mail, but it's a transfer news. I guess there's like a transfer news thing on Twitter where it's like, yeah, maybe Waco sometimes gets a hold of it, but Joe, when it gets to the Joe Donahue level, and this was the Joe Donahue tweet, I'll share my screen of this particular incoming possibility, but Joel, sorry, I'm not saying that correctly. Asking price believed to be 18 to 19 million, although sources in Italy expect LUFC to go to that figure. Currently, Leeds and Udinese are far apart in their valuations. Daria, a box-to-box ball progressor. Skipper Strasbourg's last season. So what are your thoughts on some of the incomings, rumored incomings this week, where I think we're starting to get some solid figures on?
And I tweeted again this afternoon that I think that when you're looking, I could be, we both could be blown out of the water, because the 49ers have been superb at keeping the cards close to the chest. But
Yeah.
when you look at these names, I think Diarra, Beto, and Bijol are starting to become quite well circulated within the
Right.
the rumour thing. Diarra is a bit of a strange one for me, but I'm not saying that it's a bad signing, because I think he could be a very, very, very good player. The only thing I'm going to say is, as a box-to-box midfield player, I wouldn't have expected one of the main players to be a box-to-box midfield player.
Yeah.
Unless, and we had this debate last time we spoke, unless Ampadu then sits back and plays next to Joe Rodon at centre-half again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's like can you have enough of those midfielders? The game is won and lost in midfield, is the old expression, right? So
Yes.
maybe you just need. It's one of those things, you can't have enough of those midfielders. So,
And I
yeah.
sort of agree. I sort of agree with you, and it does also release Ampadu if he needs to go back and play alongside Rodon if Pascal's still there, or if Pascal gets injured. It gives the manager the option to do that. So again, bringing him in opens up a couple of positions. I think Beto could be a very good signing for us as well. And Bijol, yeah, I can see that again. I know I've heard a lot of rumours about Pascal potentially moving on. So again, it depends on the situation with Pascal. I think it's the 49ers looking to sound out everybody they can and see what the state of play is, whether bids come in for our players as well, Alex. That's my take on that. And I've written down actually quite. I think Firpo will go. I think Wöber will go. I think Pascal's 50-50. Gilavogi will go. Harrison will go. Question about Gruev. Would you keep Gruev or not, Alex, for you? And I think Greenwood and Joffrey potentially will go, or at least go out on loan.
Mm-hmm.
And my keeps are, I'd keep Giebe. I think he's still got potential.
I would too.
I'd keep De Bayo. Whether I'd send him out on loan, I don't know. But the Premier League, you need to have plenty of cover. Chambers, Montenegro has got to either step up to the plate, or again, he's been here a few years now. Is he going to cover? So from that perspective, I think we could see more outgoings and incomings than we first sort of thought about, even though we do need Alex, I think it's key that we have at least two players for every position.
Yeah.
We cannot start the Premier League with Joe
Yes.
Rodon not having any cover. Absolutely not. We can't do that.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, and there was no cover for Joe Rodon. And so you're right. We do need to a position. Whether that's realistic, I don't know. The key question here is, and again, and I fall into this trap. You fall into this trap as a Leeds United fan, as we are a giant of the game, and a sleeping giant that could be awoken. And you're saying this player is not Premier League. So you ask about Gruev, and it's like, is Gruev a Premier League midfielder? No, I don't think he is. But I can't look at that. I can't be just saying, oh, well, bin him off, because then we'll wind up with like three, like the players that are quote unquote Premier League: Joe Rodon, Ampadu. I would almost maybe make an argument for Nanto, because what he did a few years ago. But you're looking at only a handful of players. You don't have a squad. You have to build a full squad with a bench at plus, right? So I would keep Gruev. I want cover there. I don't want to see what we were doing last. It was infuriating to see. It was frustrating to see as a Leeds fan every week, especially under Bielsa, where you're going, well, and Dallas was one of my favorite Leeds United players of all time because he would put in a shift and it would be like, in midfield or fullback. It was like wherever, a number 10. It was amazing. But those type of players are extremely rare, and the amount of value that he gave the club was extremely rare. But we saw once Dallas was down, and he had his injury that basically ended his career. You just can't do that with everybody else. Like you had Pascal playing at fullback, you had Pascal playing in the midfield. It's just ridiculous. Some of these lineups that we had in the Premiership, the 2 seasons that we really struggled, and obviously the one that we went down, or not the 9th place season, right? So I keep Gruev. I absolutely keep Gruev. I keep Aronson. I know Aronson's not a number 10 that we want to start week in, week out in the Premiership, but I like Aronson maybe at that minute 70 running at some tired legs. I think that would be good, right?
Yeah.
And
we're not gonna recoup the money that we paid
right.
for Aronson as well. So
right.
I agree.
So
I disagree with you on Giabi
on
Gruev.
Gruev,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right. I mean, there, who knows? Things can happen. But go ahead.
I think for the amount of money that we paid for him, I think we'd get 10 million for Gruev, or for Gruev. So I think that would be a good deal. If you take the 10 million, 7 to 10 million, and then offset it by the Diarra transfer, so bringing Diarra in, then Ampadu, Tanaka, and then obviously Diarra, and then Darko Giebi being the 5th centre midfield player. I think that strengthens us with not outlaying a great deal of money. So if you're talking 20 million and you get 10 for Gruev, I would suggest then it's not a bad exchange.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we get loans too. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there's potential to maybe bring in another lone winger, or a player looking to get some playing time. Now, that's where I don't see us buying from the Liverpools and Man Cities. They just don't. They're not. I don't know. I feel like we've been linked to some of those top players, or top, traditional big 6 over the last 10 years, and they don't really do business with us. But things can change. I do see us doing some more business in Europe, broadly, and getting some deals done that way. But this is kind of, I just pulled up, shout out the Twitter handle all day, LUFC. This was kind of where we're at as far as, we'll talk about this gentleman first. The Brazilian for Fulham, Muniz. He was I looked at his highlight reel, very physical striker, looking to get more playing time. I think he's somebody that we would absolutely be interested in. And again, Barron Cross is the source on this. So once it starts to get to the Athletic and the YEP, we've kind of reached, I think, stage 2 of it, where there's some sincerity and actual bids are being put in for these players. But still a while to go before we actually see them in a kit. I always cite the Rodrigo de Paul one, where I honestly thought this player was coming. He was all but a here we go, and then he wound up, I think, at Atletico Madrid. So anyways, some good news, I think, happening there. And of course there was the winger, let's see. Well, I'll summarize.
Pierre, or
yes,
something like that.
Yeah. About to be in the 40 million pound bracket again. I do, and I was talking to another content creator off air. I think we do break a franchise, a club record as far as our signing. our club signing currently sits at Jorginho Ruter for 40.5 million euros, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is in pounds, but these are the kind of the summary of the week. Pope, Bajol, Daria, and Moons. Out of those, Phil, who are you most excited about?
I think Moons is very interesting. I think it's a bit like a Beto. When you look at the amount of time he's had on the pitch to his goal ratios, he's not doing too bad at all. I watched Beto for Everton last season against Liverpool. He gave Van Dijk a real handful of a game. And I think they're the kind of guys that we should be very much looking at. The guys that really want to prove themselves, the guys that have got the potential to go on to the next level.
Mhm.
So I'd be excited about Munt, and I think that the Diarra factor. I think Diarra is actually club captain as well. So again, from a club captain point of view, bringing in somebody with the right attitude and the right character. So yeah. But to be honest with you, Alex, I'd take all four within a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we get all of them across the board in the
Yeah.
next 24 hours. Would love to see it.
Yeah.
You know what about this player too is they had the Clint Dempsey was an American. He was an
Yeah.
American player. He played at Fulham, and he was a very good. I thought he was one of probably our best striker in terms of that America's ever produced. Why are you
Yeah.
telling the story, Alex? Well, he had a saying the other day. He goes, "Is when evaluating players, he goes, are their ribs touching?" Meanwhile, what he's saying is, are they hungry? Are they
Yes.
hungry?
Yeah.
Are they hungry so that you can tell that their ribs are touching? And this is a player that just looks hungry. You know, again, the model that this club can talk about is Rafinha. This club can say
100%. Yeah.
Rafinha came here. He worked his rear end off, and he got his dream $75 million move to Barcelona. Now he's La Liga's Player of the Year, and he's probably he's one of the finalists for the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a model. That's a step that you can say to a
Yeah.
player that wants that path or wants something similar.
Yeah.
Come to Leeds United. You put on this shirt. You perform. You're going to get noticed at some of the biggest clubs in the country.
Yeah.
And Rafinha was hungry. I could see it before he came here and got off the plane. I was like, this guy
Yeah.
is going to be a transformational player. And the reason why he did it again at the end of this last season, but he walked the pitch on his knees.
He did.
Is because he knew that if he went down, that Leeds went down on that day, he was probably going to get picked up for 30 million for whatever his release clause was.
Yeah.
$30 million. He was probably going to go to Barcelona or Chelsea or whatever. He's going to get a move anyways. But that transformational money that his family and him were going to have was because they scored and they beat Brentford on that day. And that was a player that understood that the club's future and my future are tied together. We're linked. It's not these players that all jumped ship. Those players, they didn't care about the club. They didn't care about they were gone anyways, which Rafinha could have said, I'm packing it in. I've had 3 different two managers, 2 different styles. I'm out of here anyways. And you saw it, Phil, probably in 03, right? When that club went down and those players were where they were at. They were probably looking at their summers and their exits, and they had a scrap the year before. So we need players that are going to be interested in being here and interested in the long-term success of the club. And those aren't necessarily the easiest guys to recruit.
No, I agree with you, but I'm also going to then pick you up on the point that you said before, and I had a discussion about this this last week regarding loan players. Loan players don't particularly work in the Premier League. They work much more effectively in the Championship, because
Okay.
in the Championship they can look up into the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they're in the Premier League, there's no more looking up. Basically, for me, if they're in the Premier League and they're getting loaned out, then they're not good enough to play, or there's something about them that's
Mm-hmm.
not particularly good enough to play in the Premier League. So you've got to be careful. If we're taking loanees, I would potentially be looking
Yeah,
at
I agree with that.
I'd potentially be looking
Yeah.
at the European market as well. Something maybe like that to progress. So somebody could come across from Europe and say, listen, I've played as a loanee in the Premier League,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm showing you that I am that quality.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Premier League to Premier League loans aren't particularly,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
aren't particularly the best.
The only maybe it could work out with a keeper, because I think Kepa it worked out a little bit with. He was kind of able to reestablish himself get an additional value for him. I think and that loan worked out. But I agree with you, because it's just gonna be a fight. You gotta care. And
The way to get around it, Alex, is to do a loan to buy. So basically, you loan them, and if they hit the traps running and they do well, then there's a buyout clause at the end of it. So they're playing for the future as well. Just like I said about Rafinha, they've actually come into Leeds to play for their future,
right.
and that's the way that I've been looking at it.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Um, it'll be an interesting one to see if Leeds United get a transfer in before. Well, it looks like the window's closing in a few hours. Well, no, it closes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Closes tomorrow, so about 24 hours from now. Phil, I mean, there's been some smoke recently. Do you think a body comes in before the 10th?
I would like to, and again, do you know, Alex? I would like actually to be a statement signing before
Okay.
the end of this window, to sort of say right, okay, this is us and this is what we are meaning business here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I always go back to what I've said before, and this is very rare for me, as you know, Alex. I've been watching. I'm 60 years old this year. I've been watching Leeds for a long time. There's not many times in my Leeds support that I've had this much faith in the owners,
Mm.
and been going to do. So basically, we're not seeing any smoke and mirrors, anything more. Basically, they've set out, as far as I'm concerned, they've told us exactly what the plans are. They've sort of fulfilled it. Everything that they've said, they've virtually delivered. And within that delivery, they have made some very shrewd signings. They were involved in the Nonto signing for 3.5 million. They were involved in Tanaka. They're involved in Gruev, as we've said. All these, if we could pick up 3 players of that kind of value that can go on and do what they've done, Tanaka must be worth 15, 20 million.
Oh, yeah.
Willie was touted last year for Everton, £20 million. Gruev's got to be worth 7 to 10 million. That's really good business. That's really good business.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
I think there is a chance of somebody signing in the next 24 hours. The way the things it progresses to me up a ladder. Like I said, it's kind of a very rumor mill. Twitter, some Twitter spaces, then Barron Cross, and then kind of the more established journalism. They don't report it unless they actually hear it from a source like an agent. And then the next stage would be Fabrizio Romano. If he tweets anything out in the next 24 hours, I think there might be a fish that gets reeled in the next few hours. But if not, the window will close tomorrow at midnight on June 10th, and then reopen basically a week later on June 16th. and it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we get, because these are progressing, maybe they, as soon as it opens back up, they announce a couple signings, which would be fantastic. And again, I think you're going to see maybe a sale or two before June 30th. And then June 30th is when we can really wipe the slate clean. What was the phrase? It was early on in the chat. It was kind of the deck chairs. They said something about that. And there's other just ways I think the 49ers can manipulate money and their assets and sell different things. Or I don't know. I don't think they're going to do Chelsea, like sell the women's team back to themselves for $100 million.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do anything like that. But they can do some things. I think they can pull some strings and some levers at certain areas to make the balance work. I am hopeful that they spend. I think they're going to blow over that $120 million budget. I think they're going to go over that and really invest in this club. And I think you're going to see, I could be wrong, but I think you're going to see a record signing come in somewhere between now and the end of the window. And I really do think the way the 49ers operate, that last week of the window is where they kind of have done, they've studied they've studied as much as they can, and they're going to take the test and pull some triggers. And talk to another content creator about this. You know, the other thing is the 49ers can go all in on this summer window in a sense, and then still reevaluate it in the winter and sell players and get back in good faith with this PSR. So, although that's not guaranteed, you know what, I think you have to gamble a little bit, and I do think that they're willing to do that. There's so much on the line for them.
I completely agree with that, Alex. I think for just from my perspective, because obviously I'm on Twitter quite a bit, I hope to sign somebody before the deadline tomorrow, just to stop the Leeds haven't signed anybody. It's disaster. It's been a transfer windows, so the implosion of Twitter stays away from
minimal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that if we don't, I think what will happen is all the potential loan signings. So we'll get all our loan players that we're shipping out. I think that will all be sorted out. Then there's nothing to then think about of that way. I think there will still be a lot of obviously wheeling and dealing, and I sort of think, Alex, and I could be quite wrong here, that because we have in the past announced players late in the transfer window, I sort of think that they are players that have 99% here anyway, and it's just a case of saying, listen, we want you, we know where we are with you, we've still got some dealings to do, you're going to be a Leeds player, sit tight and we'll announce you. And then they can just sort of put that to bed a little bit, because they've had so much sort of to deal with. Hopefully it's not as bad as that. If there's one thing that I want to say in the Premier League, I think Daniel Farke needs a squad that is going to have at least 3 to 4 weeks with to get to where he wants them to be. So I would hope we're not bringing players in last week of the transfer window, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll get 8 bodies in the last week, but I do think that you're going to see a big kind of signing come out of that last week, because I just think, the groundwork would have been laid, and they might reach in their pocket a little bit more, whatever you want to say, whatever analogy you want to say, and say, we're going to go ahead and we want to get this one done. Here's the $10 million extra from 35 to rising to 40, whatever you want to say. Because I think that like on this negotiation that Baron Cross tweeted out, that they're miles apart, that gap will start closing as the window closes. So we will see. Hopefully we get some business done and it looks like you were watching the Wales Belgium side. I'm sure you're following along, but Wales has lost to Belgium 4-3.
Oh, I knew they'd come back to 3 apiece, but I didn't know they'd lost.
Yeah, interesting stats on it. We'll just I'll just I'll share this real quick. It looked like Wales was trying to come back into the game. 12 shots, 8 on target for Wales. Really, I mean, they might feel hard done by. They outpossessed Belgium 55-45. Decent pass accuracy. Yeah, I mean, nothing to hang your head on the World Cup qualifier there, but Belgium, they got a late goal from Kevin De Bruyne on the 88th minute.
And that's quite a good result for Wales, because that Belgian team is full of quality Premiership players.
And the penalty early. Oh, again, looks like they got Harry Wilson came back to with one as well.
Yeah.
So 2 penalties in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch back. Looks like a real hard fought World Cup qualifier. Well, thank you, Phil. I appreciate it. Follow Phil. There's his Twitter handle at the bottom, at POW7777777. But if you
7 sevens.
Yeah, if you follow, I'll retweet one of Phil's tweets. If you go to my Twitter too, you can find it there. So at American Elites is for me, or X as the cool kids call it. And yeah, you can find this on. I'll post this on X and Twitter as well, this podcast. But you can find it on Spotify, and of course, most of you are watching on the YouTube. Smash the like as you leave, and up the whites, marching on together. Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. Thanks, everybody.